At this pivotal time in humanity's evolution, we are beginning to remember our organic technology. A technology, when used correctly, can create an experience that the majority of the people the world over want to live. It is time to use this technology consciously for our own benefit and healing, and no longer unconsciously for our own demise. We are divine creators, creating both our own personal experience and our collective experience moment to moment. We invite you to join us as we reawaken this technology to experiment and experience our power to create and manifest. Become part of the 3%. Hello, you beautiful people. Welcome to the Collective Imagination for this week. I'm Lisa Harrison, and I will shortly bring out our lovely co-hosts. But just to let you know, today we're also being joined by Kelly Lashar. Kelly, I had the pleasure of interviewing Kelly back in August of last year. She's the author of Liquid Mirror and Surfing the Transformational Waves of 2012. Great books, a great read, and we had an amazing conversation last year. It was a lot of fun. So Kelly will be joining us very, very shortly. But in the meantime, welcome to Brian Kelly.
Thank you, Lisa. Yeah, I'm really excited too. I just read Kelly's The Power of Simplicity and Your Ascension. Really good stuff. So excited to see where the incredible dialogue goes this week.
Yes.
Yes.
You're welcome.
Yes.
And Bob Wright, as always.
Hello, Lisa. Hello, everyone in the chat rooms. Hello, Kelly. Thank you for being here.
Hi, Bob.
Hello.
I'm so happy to meet you.
Glad to meet you, too.
Kelly, I'll get to you in a second, love. Just got one more person to bring out, which is Chris Hales.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. Hope you're feeling as revitalized as I am this morning. And it's great to be here. And hello, Kelly. I don't think we've met before either.
No. Hi, Chris. It's nice to meet you.
You too. Lovely article. Really enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, welcome, Kelly. It's been a while since we spoke. It's lovely to hear your voice again.
Yes, I've been missing you. I feel like you're a sister.
I hear you've been tuning in every now and then, and following what we've been doing over the last year or 6 months in particular, and really keen to have a chat with you about what you have felt and seen unfolding over the course of this year, because towards the end of last year, we did a countdown show for 10 days between the 12th and the 21st, and we talked to a lot of people that I'd interviewed over the years, and the energy was amazing.
Incredible.
It was great, wasn't it?
Oh, it was
and
awesome.
We just got in there every day, and because we were focused on staying in the moment and riding this wave of energy that was building as we led up to the 21st. It was just an amazing time.
It was a blur, actually.
It was a blur.
Mm-hmm.
I really just remember it as kind of just a sequence of days, but don't ask me what happened.
And for us personally, individually, and collectively, with everybody who's part of this whole community here that tunes into these shows, the world did change for us at the end of last year. And it's been an amazing unfoldment over the course of this year so far. So, firstly, I would love to get your take on all of that. Mm-hmm. What have you seen and felt shift? How have you seen things unfold over the course of this year?
For me personally, I have gained more access to memory of where I came from and why I'm here, and the gifts that I have to offer. And this is what everyone wants. This is what the satiation of soul is all about. And all souls that are incarnate here right now have a huge opportunity to gain the benefit from the process of the ascension. And so we were all excited about 2012, yet it wasn't about that date. It was about us being in the fabric of the ascension, because it's still happening. And there's still going to be a broader shift than what we've experienced now, but that shift is accelerating. And the way I am experiencing that acceleration is memory. I'm gaining memory. My soul, my human self is remembering who my soul is. And in that, I'm getting connected with my oversoul, my soul purpose, who I am, where I'm from, and the gifts that I have to offer, so that my soul can be exuberantly expressing what I love doing. And this is what I really want for everyone. And in addition to that, I'm having a deeper, more personal relationship with Source itself, and a personal, loving being that knows me more than anyone, and is there for me to answer all of my questions, to give me clarity and guidance and support. And all of my prayers, but I don't call them prayers, but when I have conversations with Source, it will answer all of my questions, as well as if I have needs, like, okay, now this is a difficult one, I really need help with this one, and then it will just fix that. And my youngest son has actually has a very close relationship with Source in that same sense, to where when he's having a difficult time, Source will come and answer to his troubles and fix them. So that's really how I'm experiencing the fabric of the ascension.
Wow, I can feel everybody on this. I can feel Bob, Brian, and Chris all wanting to jump in. Bob, you want to go first?
Bob, take off your mute.
Yeah, he's muted.
I'm sorry. I've also, I could echo your sentiments, exactly what you're saying. I've never been more clear as to my purpose for being here.
Mm-hmm.
And that connection got easier and easier each month of this year, as far as gaining access to questions or anything. You know, I've it's times like this, you know, because things are happening so fast right now that it's at the times of these shows that I actually get the time to stop and think about and reflect, because we're talking about it, about all of the things that have happened. This is my reflective time, where I get to it's almost like a meditation for me, these shows. Because it reconnects me with where I've been to where I am, and it confirms that it's happening to everyone, because I've watched the show literally transform. I mean, the two shows that we started at the beginning of the year, the OPPT show, and then which became the One People, and the Collective Imagination show, and I've watched the audience and everyone on the panel completely transform.
Mm-hmm.
It was incredible. You know, none of us are the same people that we were last year.
No.
Yeah.
Not at all. That, in fact, we had a show. In fact, it was last week's show, Collective Imagination, and we had email from people who were still crying and writing us emails an hour after the show.
Oh, and days after, as people tuned in and listened to the archive.
Mm.
Life-changing experiences from last week's show for some people. Yeah. Literally, you know, it was such a place of open-hearted sharing.
Mm-hmm.
It was just extraordinary. And yeah, the way that we've actually seen the community itself grow and evolve together over the course of this year and connect has just been magnificent.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to echo everything you said too, and Bob. It's each week it builds, and it's so much fun to feel like that we're not waiting for something to happen anymore. It's not this far off date. It's not this process that we're going to go through. We're in it, and you can feel it, and you can ride it, and you can play with it, and grow with it, and it's just so much fun.
It is.
Who'd want to be anywhere else?
Yes, it's serving us. It's serving us. It's not happening to us. It's serving us.
You know, Kelly, this is Brian. First of all, hello. Nice to make your acquaintance.
Hi.
I was reading. I wasn't familiar with your work before 20 minutes ago, and I haven't watched any of your interviews, so I'm just reading this document that Lisa shared with me 15 minutes before the show. And there's one particular part in here that we've talked about it a little bit, but it's just really kind of bells ringing when I was reading it, and I'll share it. It says, Western religions, Eastern religions, and spiritual organizations all have two things in common: a preacher, pope, or teacher or guru that is designed to be a third party to separate you from God, and or a complicated, lengthy, distorted practice for you to use to attempt to connect with God. Prayer and meditation are prominent examples. And, you know, I've had to kind of totally toss out and redesign. I don't even want to call them beliefs anymore, but my understandings, I think, of my reality, the universe, and my role in it over the course of the last 6 months to a year. And just to echo everything that Bob said and everything that Lisa and Chris said, you know, it's been such a fun process because we've really been experiencing the whole thing together. You know, to be able to have people that, you know, you're right there riding along with in the journey, as opposed to being tucked away in some, you know, corner on your own, having your own personal experience. I imagine it's also powerful. But we've come to a point in time in our human evolution where we start to remember that the power of God is within us, and we don't. There's so much, even still to this day, there's so much looking outside of ourselves for answers. And we get a lot of that in the Facebook rooms and on Skype and some of the dialogue that we have. But it really has been, you know, because I'm one of those people also. I kind of got really fascinated when I first learned of the idea of what ascension was back in 2010. And to me, every day that followed that particular day where I was, shown this information for the first time, it all became about December 21st, 2012. And I looked at it as being this, you know, the world on December 22nd is not going to look the same as it did on December 21st, because we will all have ascended at that point. Mm-hmm. And I realize now that it has been a process, but that process is undergoing this just absolutely amazing quickening, and it feels like every day that goes by, our ability to remember who we are and understand the power that we have within us is only intensified and magnified and exponentially kind of manifested in new ways that we could have never predicted or imagined. So, I mean, it's just been quite this absolutely unbelievable journey.
The meaning of that word, to me, has changed.
Ascension?
Yes, the word ascension.
Mm-hmm. Actually, Bob, before you go on, I just wanted to direct people, if they want to have a look at the article we're referring to, I have put it in the chat room a couple of times, but it's liquidmirror.org, and go to the blog. And the article we're actually referring to in particular is The Power of Simplicity and Your Ascension. But there's quite a few articles. You seem to put one out at least. October you put out about 4 of them by the looks of things. But there's quite a few there. And also the books and anything else you want to get to see about Kelly. So, sorry, go ahead, Bob.
No, I was just referring to, the idea of ascension, how it's changed. My understanding of it and my understanding of what that word actually means, it's really just a discovery of who you really are. And it doesn't have to be, it's a process, but it doesn't have to be what everyone wants you wants to convince you to believe that it is. It's something that you experience within yourself, and it's happening to everyone, whether they're conscious of it or not. People are being triggered by all the different patterns that trigger these people. They may not understand what's happening to them, but they're being forced to deal with it. And it is literally changing conversations. I'm one that, sits in a restaurant and listens to what everyone else is saying. I don't know if anyone else does that.
Yes.
No, but I've listened to the conversations change. And they're all on common different themes, but people were having issues with relationships. People were experiencing physical things, having trouble sleeping, and I'm listening to the conversations change, and you start to realize that there's this thing that's at work. It's connecting everyone. It's nobody's exempt from it. And I feel that connection stronger and stronger. We talked about this, to the point where even in our group we were having the same dreams. You were in my dream. Well, you were in my dream, and this is what we did. Whoa! It's
another phenomenon we've discussed many times on the show, and the community in this show is participating in, is this whole idea of soul groups coming together. Are you finding that as well?
Oh, so much. Something that I've really been enjoying, but I want to digress a little bit because people now don't believe in the ascension because there was misinformation about the timing of it. And really what's in charge of the actual event is the Earth and the Sun, the pole shift and the sun shift. And the sun is ending its last cycle where it's turning into a blue star, and it's making love with the Earth. And the Earth is preparing herself for the shift, but they're both holding off. The ascension was never about a specific date. It was about a phase of time to broaden the frequency that we're in so that we can awaken. So we have this opportunity to awaken to our true identity, to awaken to our exuberant selves, to awaken to what our souls are here for and what we have to offer to our people. And so that's a really big piece, because a lot of people now that were following the ascension, we lost them because they just went, oh, forget it never happened, but it's still happening, and we're gaining the gifts from it. And then, but what was the last thing we were talking about?
Well, actually, before we go back to that, which was soul groups.
Oh, yeah, and so...
Is it fair to say that it's like sequential event-driven as opposed to time or calendar-driven?
Well, everything is time-released energetically, and so the Earth and the Sun are holding back so that we have this great opportunity to awaken together and remember our unity. And I've been seeing, I have the privilege and the honor to work with people and with star seeds and help them remember where they came from when they're having these difficult human experiences. But they're so deep and wise and rich, and they don't know that they are because they have faulty parenting and difficult childhoods, but they know that they have a purpose, and they're wanting to reach out and offer their gifts to their people. And as they're remembering why they're here, and their gifts come from that memory, and then all of a sudden the brightest light, it's the clear. They have clarity of what they need to do as a human so that their soul can be fully satiated and expressed here.
I have a quick question. I'm sorry, Kelly, keep going. I thought you were finishing with your thought.
Oh, yeah, so I'm just agreeing that we are witnessing this together. People really literally awakening and wanting to get involved with each other because we're supporting each other in this. We're a family. We're one, and we're a family, and we love each other. And that's one memory. This is a very big piece. When I get to go home, I remember the love that we have for one another, and it's so deep, and it's so different from the human love that we usually have here. And so when we can access that memory, how much we love one another and our unity, we won't have these spars with each other, this warring affairs with each other, and disagreement and conflict, even with human relationships with our loved ones and our children. This is a very profound experience to experience love here, because there's tribes that are in the Amazon that know how to do this, that are living in that harmonious way. But when you look at our race, it's been, it's been so discombobulated that the kind of love that we normally have for each other has been dissipated. And so when we can awaken to the love that we have for one another, like I have witnessed you guys doing with all that you are doing for our people, and the passion in that, and then the satiation of witnessing them awaken with us, it's the most satiating experience that I've ever had in my lifetime here.
No, it was put to me this morning. The words that were put to me were, we're going from being codependent to being interdependent.
Mm-hmm.
And that clicked and rang so many bells for me. It's we stand in our own individuality and in our own sovereignty, and we come together with others who are doing the same by loving choice to communicate and cooperate with each other. Mm-hmm. And I'm seeing that it was a perfect way of describing what I'm doing in my own life and how I'm shifting and changing the relationships that I'm having and what they're moving into. And wow, it was just chills.
I have a quick question, if I can ask Kelly. Kelly, you said there's a lot of bad information out there about what ascension was, and I totally agree with you. I think that we've all probably read our fair share or spoke to various individuals that have shared ideas that didn't quite resonate with us. But for everybody that's listening that doesn't have any background or experience with you or your work, including myself, can you give just a kind of a brief background in how it was that you came to your understandings of what ascension means to you, so we can have a little bit of context to this dialogue? Yes.
Well, that's a very broad,
I realize,
lengthy conversation, but my training started when I was 5 years old. I was absconded by the Illuminati, a being, and when that happened, I asked God to please come because I'm in serious danger. And a man that became my stepfather was a medium for a being that was here to find me, basically. And so when I was rescued by my stepfather, he wasn't my stepfather yet, but I was around 4 or 5 years old, and he got us out of the situation, and then he became my teacher, and Moda became my teacher. So my whole childhood was about this training, and the Moda implanted awakening inside of me throughout my training. And as an adult, I left my path and I raised children and had a corporate job, international marketing, and it was very glamorous and such, but I decided to become a minimalist and forget it all and find my true path. And so I started going into shamanic training, and I found Alberto Villaldo, who introduced me to the Inca, and I learned healing modalities from the sacred ones that know about the ascension. The Inca we also have the Hopi that knew about it, but the Inca they know it innately. They know exactly what it's all about, to the extent that when their tribe was slaughtered, they knew that they were going to be slaughtered, and hundreds of them were slaughtered, but 300 of them decided to go up to 17,000 feet in the mountains and protect their wisdom teachings, so that they could come back at this time after the whites weren't killing them anymore in that area, and come down and now disseminate these ways to connect with Source and understand what the ascension is all about. So my training is kind of vast on this, and that's why I was attracted to them. But basically, when I was studying shamanism, there's caves all over the world that talk about the ascension. All the indigenous caves talk about this time all over the world, and that's when I knew that it was real, and that's why I was attracted to the Inca. And their healing modalities are so profound; they can heal people from any affliction. There's no disease that's incurable, and their modality is quite advanced. And I've taken that modality and my own modality that's even broader than that. well, I wouldn't say broader than that, but and they even encourage us to find your own specialty, and so I have, and it's been a very satiating experience for me to find a way to love my family through helping souls in the human context to heal from their pain of their childhood, so that the energy channels of their souls can be clear and clean, so that they can connect with Source and remember who they are and be fully who they are. And there's so much abundance that happens from that. This is high magic. When we just clear out the stuff that keeps us from feeling exuberance, and then practice that, then the life. When my book is called Liquid Mirror, and the reason why I called it Liquid Mirror is because life is a mirror of the soul. And when the soul is cleared up and connected with Source, abundance and life will come back to you and reflect all of that satiation for you. So relationships heal, and you can tap into what your passion is and live it fully. And this is what really soul wants. Every soul desires the same thing. And so the Inca had a very found way to do this, and it's called soul retrieval.
Soul retrieval?
Soul retrieval. And the reason why they call it soul retrieval is because when we have difficult childhoods, and so when a soul is incarnate, and let's talk specifically about starseeds now, starseeds have never had incarnations on Earth before. And they came here with gifts. They came here to assist the ascension. And they heard the call, and they came. And there's so many of them, and they're all so beautiful. I'm brought to tears with every session I get to do with people, because I get to witness the flowering of their souls and the beauty and the dedication and the strength inside of them. And they, so what I'm doing with them is when they're going through their inner childhood process, we lose parts of our soul. The soul gets fragmented when we difficult childhoods. Mm-hmm. It was just like working with the inner children of ourselves that got afraid. We were afraid because we came from love, and then we into human parents that didn't know yet how to raise children to make us love ourselves, so that we would fall in love with ourselves, fall in love with life, fall in love with living, falling in love with existence that hasn't existed on this planet for when seeds incarnated, into a baby, and the baby just was like, what is this? I disagree with this. And so many people go back and being in a crib and going, I think I decided against what I want out. And so it's fragmented because of the shock. And then when you go further up in the ages, through different things that happen in their childhood, that's when the soul splits off. We have lack of support. We really
you're dropping out a little bit, Kelly.
Okay, I don't know why. But so when they drop out, when they're experiencing trauma, they assume, all humans do when we're not being loved by our parents, is we assume, oh, there's something about me that's not worth being loved. Mm-hmm. So we live the rest of the time going, I'm not worthy.
Yeah, common problem.
Yes.
It does seem to be like a theme throughout humanity, actually. That we're not worthy. And it's constantly reinforced through religion, through through schooling, through the whole indoctrination program. It's like you can't be trusted to do the right thing. So we actually have to have so many rules and regulations and laws and boxes to put you in to ensure that you do the right thing, because we can't trust you to do it on your own.
That comment right there brings up the video that Bob posted the other day.
Yeah.
Bob, are you muted?
No, I'm here.
The video Bob posted the other day was all about talking. The whole idea was that humanity has gotten so stuck on the whole idea of we need suffering to grow, and the whole no pain, no gain ideology, and that because there's such a large collective belief in suffering being the only mode through which we grow, we end up manifesting more suffering. Whereas if we can collectively agree that we've had enough suffering and we'll grow through our experiences of love and unity and connectedness and prosperity or joy or what have you, then humanity can collectively shift into a realm where it's not based around needing darkness to manifest light.
Well, look at that woman. Sorry, I was going to say one of the women who was most revered on this planet is Mother Teresa, and she's well known for believing in her belief that suffering is good for the soul. And we've elevated this woman to the point of sainthood. And she was not interested in programs or supporting things that, the whole concept of teach a man to fish or, give him a fish. She was into giving people a fish. And she wouldn't support programs that taught people how to fish because suffering was good for the soul.
It's become so ingrained in people that when you break that pattern, people attack you. I've literally watched now a lot of my friends and the people that I hang out with, they don't have traditional quote unquote jobs. But they're all doing fine, all of our bills are paid, but the pressure that you get from the families, why don't you get a real job and this and that, because there's a certain degree of freedom that we experience by not working the traditional job. There's a certain a level of freedom and expression that you have, and I could never go back to being in that mode, where I have a secular job. But I see that all the time, not just in that situation, but so many people, one of the biggest questions I had when I was growing up was, why? What was it about gay people that people hated us so much? And the only reason that made sense in my mind is because we love freely and we're happy, and people resent because it invalidates their choices. It invalidates their lives because so many people restrict their love. They don't do what feels good because they've been told that what feels good is somehow bad for you. Yeah. And you're told to, pick up your torture stake and carry it and bear it, and that anything worth having you have to work hard for, and all these ideas that are ingrained in people, so that it's no wonder that we've struggled. Mankind has struggled over the ages to come to the realization that maybe it doesn't work this way.
Yeah. In fact, we have an entire planet suffering from Stockholm Syndrome. Our sovereignty was kidnapped so long ago, and us with it, that we've trained ourselves to create suffering and create division. You don't have to really be prodded too hard. It's become a habit over generations and generations and generations of being inside this system. And we've simply forgotten. And what I liked about your article was, the really simple aspect that it's a reconnection with Source, a reawakening, a reignition of the knowledge that we lost. It's as simple as that. Because the big thrust of the disinformation was to make us think that we were going somewhere, that there'd be some miraculous magical shift and we'd all be something else in an instant. Well, no. That's the opposite of what it was about. Even the word ascension, it infers we're going to go upwards. Well, we're not. In a spiritual sense, yes. In a physical sense, no. So that was, again, part of the kidnapping of the information that is part of the kidnapping of our entire sovereignty and being. And the only way to actually fix Stockholm syndrome is to pull the kidnapped individual out and make a major shift with patience and love and nurturing to get them through it. And that's what we're going to have to do for each other and with each other until it's done.
We're doing it already. It's happening.
It's already started. You're absolutely right.
Kelly, do the Incas see ascension as being a individual process that ultimately leads up to kind of like a 100th monkey collective?
Absolutely. That's why they do what they do. And they've been healing people by the thousands and teaching us this modality of healing, but it always starts with inside first. We heal our own wounds before we can help others. So it is actually, the ascension to them is an ascension.
Ascension, yeah.
I like that.
Mm-hmm. Hey, that's good.
I like that.
That's the first time I've heard that term. That's awesome.
Mm.
So what's been going on? You sort of alluded to the changes that are going on with you over the course of this year and getting a stronger connection and sense of who you really are. What does that look like? What does that mean for you?
Well, I could say that I have awakened the acceleration of this, and the time speeding up, and the growth is so fast. So I have more and more access every day at an accelerated rate of remembering where I'm from in detail, and my tribe, my original tribe. And
how important is it for us to remember those things, do you think?
The only reason why it is important, when it's not, I'm not saying that it's important for everyone, except for this one common thread, is for us to remember this love that we have for one another and our unity. That's really the only purpose of remembering for me.
I do think that the gathering of the soul groups helps to facilitate that. Because when you do, you experience a love like you've never experienced before.
Mm-hmm.
And you remember home. That's the only way I can describe it. Mm-hmm. You remember home. You remember what it feels like to just be. And it's so easy to just be in the presence of these people.
Mm-hmm.
There's no more pretense. There's no more mask. You are able to shed all of that, and when you do, there's this expansion of yourself, an expansion of who you are and what you are, and there's this tremendous, oh my goodness, I guess it's a retaking control
mm-hmm.
of every aspect of your life, you know, that you had placed in the responsibility in others. You know, we're moving out of, like Lisa said, codependency to interdependency, and that, or was that Brian that said that?
That was Lisa.
Lisa, yeah.
That codependency, you know, you don't realize how codependent we've become
mm-hmm.
until you start to disconnect, you know, mm-hmm. and to retake your own power and to take that responsibility for your own creation.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do, it's like leaving your secular job. You get a taste of it. You can't go back. You can't go back to living. You know, the old way. You know, if once you see the elephant under the table, you can't pretend it's not there.
Nor would you want to.
Nor would you want to.
Actually, this is going to sound like a technical question, but in regards to these soul groups coming together, do you think this is happening in order to activate individual awakenings, or is it happening as a result of individual awakenings? Do you know what I mean?
Well, it's both. Starseeds are here for that purpose. And in the awakening is happening because of that as well. And that's why we're all here doing what we're doing. But I'd like to go back to remembering home, and the purpose of it is the love. And so when I'm there with my people, I'm weeping. I'm weeping from the deep love, the experiential emotion of this deep love that we don't usually experience here on earth with even our most deepest loved ones, even our children and family. This is a deeper love that I'm talking about that can bring you to tears. And so this is the frequency that I live by. It's a deeper love and devotion to my people, and they're all my people to me, including the ones that develop the matrix and the lies that are embedded in us, and that's multi-tiered as well, because we have the Eastern traditions and the meditation traditions, and then we have science that doesn't even believe in soul or God, and so we have been bombarded by a deep imprint that we're having to break out of. And when we delete the lies from the matrix out of our soul, out of our system, out of our belief system, that is how we create our sovereignty and our freedom. And that's the movement. This is the movement. We are in this movement. We are the movement. We are the return of Quetzalcoatl. We are the ascension through our awakening.
Hmm. I've witnessed someone coming out of that experience where, they look like they were in a meditative state, but come out of that and just, I was home. And the emotion and the love and the tears were evident.
I think all of us can attest. I've cried more this year than any year of my life, I think, besides when I was a baby. It's and they haven't been, there have been some tears of sadness, but it's just tears of love.
Mm-hmm.
It started even last year. I would just get overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. I would watch different movies and different programs, and I would see an act of love or an act of kindness on the screen, and it could be something as simple as someone helping a homeless person. I would get overwhelmed, and I'm sitting here watching, these TV shows. Sometimes it's just a commercial, and I'm crying. I'm just like, because that love, when you see it demonstrated and you connect with it, and it brings you all the way back home. It's I made a New Year's what are they called? Resolution. I want to love as many people as I possibly can, and it's just such a good way to live. I don't for me, and I don't even know if I consider myself a starseed. I'm who I am, but for me, I just could never understand why people keep their love to themselves. It feels so good to hug someone. It just feels so good. But they reserve that for when, people die or in terrible, they reserve that connection, and I could never understand, and that video that, I did share, I don't.
Bob gives great hugs, by the way. I just had to throw that in there.
It explained that because we have been indoctrinated to believe that pain is good, that when you start to feel pleasure, people literally feel guilty when they start feeling too good. I must be doing something wrong. People when they're being shown affection and kindness, they immediately, well, what do you want? And there's this distrust and fear, because we're not conditioned to love.
And it's been so sexualized too. That, as a woman, it can get quite awkward to be a hugger and want to hug all the guys around you because they're all questioning whether or not you're coming onto them.
Yeah, and that's from The Matrix as well. And what I want to say, Bob, that is so beautiful, because just remembering this love from the other side is not enough. We have to anchor it here and be that frequency, because emotion is the frequency that impacts the whole. And so that bringing that love here is really the whole purpose of memory altogether. And that is so, thank you so much for sharing that beautiful experience of yourself here and what you're offering to people.
One of the other interesting things I'm observing is actually on mainstream TV, because there's a lot of seems to be in this country there's a plethora of, you could call them talent shows of various kinds. You know, there's singing shows and dancing shows and whatever. And I was watching a singing show last night. So it's a singing competition. And for a start, I don't know where these singers are coming from. Man, they just this last year, these young talented people, they all seem to be between the ages of about 15 and 23. Incredible singers. But the most amazing thing is the reaction of the audiences. They sing their first note and everybody's on their feet going, yes. Right?
Yeah.
That you know, the thickness of the veil that was dropped over our emotional bodies is just gone. And, you know, the tears, the hugs, you know, that's what's coming out. And I just can't believe this entire audience, especially in Australia, because Australia was a bit slow to relax as an audience. I remember this from when I was young and visiting artists interacting with my parents who were in the music business would say, gee, Australian audiences, gee, they're a bit quiet, you know, they don't do anything and they just clap at the end. And they were right back then, but now it's completely different. It's changed, and it's just this last 6 months that I've noticed it really come through.
You know what's really funny about that, Chris, is I was about to bring it up before you told that story, is I'm not much of a crier. I don't hold it back when I feel it, when it's coming, and I don't have mainstream television, but every once in a while I'll be able to watch on Hulu or wherever the shows like America's Got Talent or So You Think You Can Dance, where you have these young performers up on stage doing their thing. And I swear to God, what yanks the tears out of me is when these kids just absolutely are so in tune with their talent that it's just so perfectly expressed. And when they're done and they're being judged, I'll literally, the tears will just start flowing, and I ask myself why. It's because I get so much joy out of seeing other people so happy. Like, those people are up there, they're living their dreams, and they're just so beside themselves in joy that they're able to have this opportunity to share their expression, not only in front of the whole audience there, but in front of millions of people watching on TV, and they're just so happy. Or there's that movie 42 where it's the story of Jackie Robinson, first African-American baseball player, and there's that scene where one of his teammates goes up and puts his arm around him at his own home field, where, you know, he knew he was going to get a lot of slack for it. And it's just like, to be able to see, witness experiences where either people are just in absolute joy, or some kind of groundbreaking letting go of judgment and oppression, like what I saw in 42. Those are the kinds of things that help you remember that at the core of every human being is an absolute endless amount of compassion. And it's that compassion that I think that even the hardest, thickest skinned people, at times their knees will buckle when they experience a situation where it's just the most rawest form of joy or happiness, and it's just beautiful to watch.
You know, Brian, I'm going to use these shows as an example of my observation as well, because I've got two daughters. One's a singer, one's a dancer. So even though I don't watch TV, they watch those kinds of shows. And what I've noticed is, I mean, these shows are highly, highly manipulated. And I know that, say, for example, the X Factor or whatever, you have to go through 3 or 4 levels of audition before you even get to audition in front of the judges. And they manipulate a certain number of people who are really, really, really not talented in that area to go through those stages and then put them up on stage in front of an audience and in front of the judges. And they allow those people to have their hopes built up through each phase that they pass through, and they build them up and they build them up so that they can completely annihilate them publicly.
Yeah.
In fact, I actually stopped watching the shows a couple of years back because of that. But they seem to have subtracted a lot of that out, I must say.
Well, what I've noticed is the way the audience reacts to that. Back in the year or so ago when these things first started, the audiences were encouraged, because my kids have even been to those audition shows live, so they know what goes on in those studios where the crowds are pumped up to really nail these people who are bad, and the crowds would get right into it, and they would just boo them and throw things at them and humiliate them and yell horrible things out to them. But now, when you see that, the audience isn't reacting like that. They're embarrassed for them. They feel uncomfortable. They feel compassion, and some of them even cry because they're so mortified that this person's in this position. So even when you look at something like that, you can see a difference.
Yeah, it's the humiliation of the Matrix, and when I watch that kind of thing, you can see how the guys behind that work the show are just building people up and taking people down. But what I'd like to share, if I may, is the tribes in the Amazon that have never been touched by the Matrix, and you can see this human love that is so profound, and that's what brings me to tears, where there's actually humans that are living in harmony with the jungle, and they know ways to heal each other, and they don't even need a shaman or drugs because they know how to heal each other and take care of each other. And it's called the Thoe tribe, the one that I recently got to witness, and this just came out in 2013 on I believe it was April, and they made a beautiful documentary, and it's so rare to be able to see these tribes. This is a lifelong dream of mine, to see this and to see the way that they live with one another and the way they love each other is so deep and natural and so far removed from the way we experience life. And they love living. They just love each other. They love living, and they live in harmony and take care of the earth while they're taking care of each other in such a sweet way. And so to be able to see the purity of what humanity could have been, so that to imprint us with what is possible, and not to feel bad about ourselves that we're not living in that way, but to see what it really looks like without the imprints that keep us from that intimacy. I mean, this tribe is so intimate with each other. The men hug each other. They can't stop touching each other, and the women and the children, and the way they love each other, and they're not afraid of being so close, just like the Aborigines. Some of the pure tribes in Australia, they're very close. They sleep together at night, and very closely. They're not afraid of intimacy. And this is something that when we can see the purest form of humanity before the Matrix got them, we can learn from that.
Yeah.
Can I ask if there's any differences in terms of family structure or what we would call married relationships or the upbringing of children? Is any of that different?
Oh, so much so. Incredibly different. The babies don't cry. The 2-year-olds don't cry. They never have conflict with each other. And I raised my children this way because I found a book before I was pregnant called The Continuum Concept. And
I talk about that book all the time.
Yeah, I raised my children in a very tribal way, but all by myself in the mountains. But yes, their children don't cry. They don't have playpens. They don't. And their children don't cry. Their babies don't cry. They don't have. We don't have the 2-year-old temper tantrum stage in that culture, in those cultures, because there's many, and yet they're actually just taking down. We have illegal loggers that are taking down the forest and killing them, and so the Holocaust is still happening. we know about the Holocaust of North America, right, with all the Native Americans, and that was really, nobody talks about that Holocaust and the sacred ways that they were living before the white man came and annihilated them. And then we have in South America, they took their gold and it wouldn't allow them to practice their sacred ways. And so now there's still shamans in South America that medicine people that now have a cross on their altar. So, you know, the infiltration that is just trying to keep this pure way of living down, and all the sacred medicines in the Amazon forest are being taken. We have a cure for cancer, and it's in the Amazon forest, but they don't want us to know that, so they're just tearing it down and killing these sacred people so that they can make money off of the slave race, which is us, to keep us diseased and sick, and make money off of us.
You know, it's not mentioned a lot, but I've also seen this same change affect the animals. I watch the animals closely because I live in a rural area, and the way they behave and the way they interact with humans, at least in my experience, has drastically changed. I'm seeing, you know, species that normally you just would not see together, you know, actually nurturing one another. You know, cats and birds being friends, and you know, I'm not to sound like cliche about the lion laying down with the lamb, but I'm seeing it. I'm literally seeing it. You know, the animals, they're not afraid. There's not as much fear of humans, at least not of me. You know, and I've seen it with a lot of other people as well. You know, the animals, their demeanor, their character is changing.
I've been witnessing that as well, even close up with some. I'm seeing the consciousness of wild animals awakening to where I can even be intimate with butterflies and frogs and condors and birds of every species are coming close into me and wanting to interact. And the goldfish in my pond come up to my hand when I put my hand in the water. Yep. There's like more intimacy with the species, and there's also new species that are coming forward. So we're in something quite amazing.
How many frogs have you kissed, Kelly?
Yeah.
Well,
how many princes have turned up?
Great question. Well, my younger son is an expert at catching them without hurting them, and he can just bring them to me, and I got to hold like 4 of them, and one of them was a very tiny frog about the size of a pea, a little brown frog the size of a pea that just sat on my finger and didn't even move. It was amazing.
Oh, so cool. What were you going to say, Lisa?
I can't remember. It's gone. What was I going to say?
I don't know.
Bob,
read your mind.
Yeah, Bob, read my mind. Go on.
I have no
It had something to do with animals, but...
Well, I think, you know, the signs, it's funny. I really laugh internally when... For all those people that say, you know, nothing is happening. You know, that there's nothing going on and there's no changes and the dark are always going to be there ruling the world and bah ha ha ha. I laugh. I don't make fun of them. I internally I feel bad because they don't have the ability to truly open up their eyes and see the signs of the changing tide every single place that you look these days. I mean, see, the funny thing is that, and I've talked about this briefly on the shows before, is that, you know, prior to us going to Africa, you know, I was talking, most of everything I had to say was a response to events that were taking place in banking or documents or what's going on with Heather and this and that. And so much now of what I've gone through since I've got back is it's all, everything has now been shifted inward. And when I talk to people, you know, they say, what happened in Africa? You know, what happened out there? What'd you guys do? This and that. I could sit there and tell stories of all the things that we did out there for hours, and we have. But the biggest shifts and the biggest changes have happened within me. And it's these things that I've experienced that I feel have the greatest amount of value that I have the ability to share with others. I mean, I feel it's funny. We talked about it a little bit in the beginning. Somebody said they feel guilty when they're too happy or whatever it might be because other people can't experience it. I know what that feels like. I truly do. I swear, I kid you not. I can't remember feeling an ounce of stress about anything. Or fear or doubt or worry or I'm not going to be able to have my bills met or what am I going to do about this or what am I going to do about that. There hasn't been literally any of that since we had this transformational trip out into Africa. And what a gift. I'm realizing what an absolute gift that I've been given and that the others that were there in spirit with us have been given, and the people on this panel and other people that are experiencing this that didn't have that Africa trip have been given, in the sense that always feeling a sense of underlying connectedness, that everything is in a state of absolute and utter perfection no matter what is going on externally, because it's all perfect. And I think that having that mindset for me and always expecting for it to be kind of, let's just call it smooth sailing in my external adventures or whatever you might call it, is what manifests that, more of that in my life. And so I don't have situations where I'm constantly caught in situations or circumstances in my life where I feel trapped or have really stuck energies or feel like I'm dealing with trying to, like a David and Goliath, with going against the banking systems and all this other stuff that we talk about. And that's all a process of what I'm experiencing from the inside out as opposed to the outside in. And I think that's probably indicative of what so many people are experiencing right now from all around the world. And when more of us start to look within for the answers that we all have, it's really easy to get stuck in the trap of constantly going online, watching YouTube videos, following all the internet sites, even listening to these radio shows, or looking outside for the answers from other people. When we realize that every answer we could ever possibly hope to attain is always right inside of us, and we don't have to go any farther than, like you said in your article, Kelly, just asking the question and then waiting for the answer to show its face.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that we all seemed to go through when we were together in Africa was a process of letting go of attachments. And I've been questioning myself on that for quite some time. It's like, okay, I feel like I let go of all my old attachments, but have I just replaced them with a whole bunch of new ones? And I don't think I have, but there's one thing that I would probably call an attachment, and that is to a state of being. If that's what you can call it, an attachment. It's certainly a desire to maintain a state of being. But what I'm not attached to is the external circumstances that may contribute to that. If that makes sense. I'm not looking outside of myself anymore to help me achieve that state of being.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's all coming from within.
Absolutely. Outsourcing is a trap.
Mm-hmm.
Outsourcing, yeah.
But at the same time, though, if you look around at the people around us, they very much respond to information, things outside of them, to start generating the inside shift. Look, we were all exposed to, for instance, the UCC filings of One People's Public Trust. That created a big shift internally, ultimately. So there are triggers, but the action...
triggers is one thing, but an attachment to them is another.
No, you can't be attached to the tools. You've got to leave the tools behind because they won't serve you once they've done their triggering. That's it. But they're still there. And other people who aren't as far up that path, they'll still benefit from those tools. But yeah, you certainly lose attachment to them. A lot of the OPPT material is if you like, it's sitting there, it's doing its thing, but it's not what we're focused on now. We're focused on what's ahead of us, which is the result of all those things and the result of all the internal shifts. Very interesting journey. It's been amazing.
We do actually have a caller, Kelly. It may be for you. It may just be someone wanting to share.
Okay.
But if you're open for that, and if anyone does want to call in, the guest number is 646-716-4598. So we might just take this call. There's a strange noise coming through. I think it's from you, Chris. Or maybe it's Kelly. Scratching noise.
Okay.
Okay. I'll just mute out. Not sure where that's coming.
Okay. We've got area code 336. You've got your hand up, 336. Is that Randy? No.
I bet it is.
I think it is. I think 336 is him. But he's not. Maybe he's muted on his end. So we'll skip that. Where else are we going with this? I'm having a weird day today. I can't stay focused. What is wrong with me? Kelly.
Wait. How many bottles of wine do you have left, Lisa?
No. Is that it? Fear is gone though. Excuse me. How do you see this continuing to unfold, Kelly?
I know what I wanted to ask her.
Okay.
And it's a question that you've often asked, because the Earth is playing a big part in this. The Sun as well.
Oh yeah.
And you had mentioned about the Earth becoming a blue star, and we've talked about this on many occasions. You know, that there is a point where there is going to be an event that happens that everyone will experience this transformation.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see that as a single event, or something that people experience individually, or is it a collective experience in a single moment?
It's all of the above, everything that you just said. And it's not the Earth that's turning into a blue star, it's the Sun that's turning into a blue star, and the Earth is turning into a red star from what the Hopi prophecies are about. And so what I do is I use it all as metaphor. And I do feel, we all feel this. There's definitely something going on. But to put a specific event on it is not necessary. And yet, for me personally, if I look at the long run of the Earth and look at what's going on in the Middle East, I'm deeply inside of the system of what's going on Earth right now, and the suffering of souls that are the amount of the suffering that is going on that people rarely want to look at. We like to stay in denial and not see it. And I'm aware on every level of how many humans are suffering, how many souls are suffering, and there's souls that are suffering in 4D as well, in locker rooms. And so when we take a good look at it and say, okay, so the ascension could be a gradual, subtle thing over, like, so gradual we wouldn't even notice a difference. Well, then all of a sudden we're going to have to see people in the Middle East going, instead of fighting, they're going to put their guns down and go, well, what are we doing? And I can't see that. I can't see awakening inside of the people, the souls that have been reincarnating over and over and over and over here again over the last few centuries, that they don't have access to this because they're so imprinted by their culture, their religion, and their infighting in the name of God. So in terms of us being wanting to understand what this is all about, I cannot see that there isn't going to be a single event, and that's what ascensions are designed for, to put everything back in balance. So me personally, I see a shift that is like in a blink of an eye, where all of a sudden all souls are home in the loving lap of Source. So they can actually have a reflection of who they are. Because when we believe in the lies about ourselves on the Matrix, to that is to be in the reflection of the eyes of God, the Source. And so I don't see this going another, 100 years. Because look at what's happening. We're gonna, they're gonna take the earth down. The Holocausts are going on still. What's going on in Egypt is very encouraging, but still not very hopeful. And what's going on in the Middle East is even more intense. Most people don't even know what's going on in the Middle East because Americans don't know. We don't have media to know what's going on. The media doesn't allow us to really understand it, and much less we have in America the intelligence to understand what's going on there. So this is a broad thing, and to be aware, to claim ourselves as awakening, we have to awaken to the soul suffering that is going on. And if we don't do that, we're not awakened. So we can just prolongate it and imagine that it could be gradual, subtle. I can't see it, and I personally am not watching our soul suffer much more.
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to add to that, Bob? Because I have a question that came out of that.
I don't know. Go ahead, ask your question.
It's about the red and the blue.
Yeah.
Because there seems to be two different camps, distinctly, when it comes to people who are working with the energies of the earth. I hear those two colours over and over and over again. Sometimes the red is referred to as a more of a magenta, but people who work with the energies of the earth are either saying it's blue, the core, the centre is this blue energy, or they see red. And I'm just wondering what that's about, because I understand the prophecy of the red and blue Katrina and things like that, but why would we be seeing really strong, powerful, energetic workers seeing two distinctly different colours?
So it would be understandable for the earth to be seen as blue right now, because on her inner core she's blue but about to turn red, and the shift that's happening with the sun and the earth is when we can tap into communing with the souls that they are, because they're actual conscious beings just like us. There's really not much difference between us and them, just in the simple fact that we're souls. And I met them before we even did this project together. I know them as souls and loving beings. Like, they inspired me when I first met them before I incarnated here, and because they have this deep, deep, profound love for each other, where they're so devoted to pull off this for us together.
And here's a thought, Lisa.
Mm-hmm.
When you combine red and blue, don't you get magenta?
Purple.
Purple, yay. Okay. Well, because you remember the meditations that I used to lead on this show, and where we'd go down to the center of the earth?
Mm-hmm.
And I always did it that there was this red heart, like a ruby, kind of at the center. And that's always what felt really, really right for me. And yet I was hearing other people who were working with Earth Energies talking about this blue. And the blue, as you know, was a really strong color for us when we were in the desert, leading up to it. It was a recurring theme.
Did you guys see it in the sun? Because when I look at the sun, if I stare right into it in broad daylight, the center of it is blue, and the hue around it is magenta. Have you guys seen that?
I've seen, oh yes, the magenta I've seen
very,
very vividly.
Mm-hmm. I haven't seen the blue yet, though.
No, I haven't seen the blue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've got to stare right into it and not be afraid of it harming your eyesight. But I can see the core of it is pure, bright blue, turquoise blue.
Now you're making me want to go out and stare at the sun.
He's off.
He's off. He's gone. He's got to go out and have a look at the sun.
Okay, that hurts. Thanks, Kelly. Just kidding. I take full responsibility.
So what does it mean? When the earth turns red and the sun turns blue? What does it mean?
Well, the center, when I see the center of the sun, I can see it in its transition. And with the solar flares that are happening, we feel the impact of that, right? He's preparing to penetrate her. And so when I see the blue, I can see the beginning stages of his transition, and the magenta around it is the light filtrating from the blue emanating out of it, just like you said, with the blue and purple mixing makes magenta. But I also think of the earth as the feminine, and I kind of see her as well, I'm going to refer to George Kavassalis at this point with the Vesica Pisces, with the magenta yoni that represents this ascension process.
Mm-hmm.
And so I believe that they're making love and preparing for a deeper, richer orgasm, per se, for our sake.
Sounds like fun, doesn't it, Bob?
Wasn't George Kavassalis the one that thought that the ascension was gonna happen in March, and only 60% of the population was gonna make it? Is that the same? That's the same guy, right?
Yes, and he's in an awakening process too, just like we're all trying to figure this out together, and so we're just going through this together, and George and I have had many conversations together, and we agree on a lot of things, and we're also growing together. And so, we can't blame anyone for putting out a date when George was very bold to go out and be aware of this and put this information out. He was one of the first, actually, that really got bold and forward with his awareness of this. And through his awakening process, and so.
What I really liked about George and respected him for is he got to a point where he said, "Yeah, I was wrong about that," and he would publicly admit that he was being played or manipulated, and he fell for it, or he misunderstood the information, and this is what I think it looks like now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I have all the respect for that.
Yeah, I love George.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
He actually one of his main themes was that the Earth was going to become a star, and,
Mm-hmm.
and the timing was wrong, and maybe his description was wrong. But I think that part of his information, he was feeling it the right way, because that's pretty much what most people are saying. It's going to, not a star in the sense that the sun is a star, but a star-like planet, which I think is something quite different.
Well,
but
absolutely, yeah. And
he the bold bit was putting a date to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was the only thing is putting a date to it. Is and a lot of people did that, is to give a date to it, and that was just an innocent mistake, really. But in terms of the traditions that I've learned from the indigenous ones, that just the cave drawings of what the ascension is about, is the Earth is turning into a fifth dimensional planet, and that I do feel she's about to shift so strongly to where the beings that decide we're all going to transition through this, and everyone gets to decide where we go. And
what does that mean by where we go?
Well, so when
you mean physically?
So no, I mean soul-wise.
Right.
So when in the transition, all souls will go to Source first. And then they all get to decide if they want to come back to the Earth or go back to their families and their star nations, or come back to the Earth and be a caretaker of the new Earth. And the fifth dimension is really one of my favorite dimensions. And I've traveled throughout many of them. And the fifth one is my favorite. It's where souls, it's like a vacation place for souls in 5D, to where they can actually just be supported by their tribe, by all of the beings that they're there with, to fully be who they are and express their creativity and just explore and discover themselves through creativity. And I see it as a luminous place. 5D is this place. So if the Earth is going into a fifth dimensional being, which is what all of the indigenous ones say, then that is going to be a place that is not easy to imagine from here, but I see it as a luminous place where thought is instant manifest, where we create our environment, we create our tribes together, we create our culture together from a pure place of love for one another.
I'm still trying to get my head around what this looks like.
How's
How it
that going for you?
unfolds. It's not going very well, actually. I'm struggling. Okay. Okay, let's talk density, because I've got this feeling like the densities are collapsing. The division between them is collapsing. You know, the veils between them all are thinning to the point that, I don't know, maybe to the point where it's all just fluid. I don't know if I want to say one, but fluid.
Yes, I like that. Fluid together, and not in resistance, not in contraction and resistance against each other or ourselves.
Because to me, it's part of the collapse of the hierarchy system, because I think that this dimensional structure is all part of that. So if the hierarchy collapses, the dimensions have to break down to a certain extent as well. And basically, I'm just running my mouth off and don't really know what I'm talking about, but this is just a feeling that I haven't really tried to articulate too well in the past, but and I'm trying to see how that fits in and how that gives me a visual for what is unfolding and what it might look like. Bob, you were going to say something?
I was.
You were?
You know, I constantly get the idea that our dreams are going to become our reality. That the way we experience our dream time is going to become very, very real in our waking moments. So that when you're in your dreams, everything that you're dreaming is coming from you. Everything. All the characters, the scenery, it's all, you're creating it all. There's no doubt that it's all coming from you. But that ability and that experience of non-locality, instant manifestation, all the things that are possible in your dreams will become our natural reality.
Yes. And dream state is our natural state. So when we are souls that are not bound by the mind of the human incarnation that we're in right now, that will be our natural state, is creativity through imagination. It's freedom. It's what sovereignty is all about.
But what about we're all having a certain amount of fun in these physical bodies, in these density bodies. There are lots of things you can do with them and to them that are, fun. So I think when we talk 5D or, and we talk about light bodies, the seems to be the next sequential thought is that we lose our density and we lose the ability to experience what we can experience here. Is that true from your experience?
There is no loss. There's never loss. Nothing is ever lost. Nothing is lost. We don't have to be afraid of letting go of anything. And you were talking about attachment earlier, and we don't need to be attached to anything. Attachment is fear. We don't leave our family behind or our children behind. We're tribed already. And so we might be attached to our experience here. And there's an article that I wrote about this, the fears of our ascension, and they address our fears, lack of trust of God, lack of self-trust, lack of fear of letting go of our attachments to our regular status quo experience, rather than facing a transition. And I'm not saying that the transition has to be abrupt. And at the same time, for me, myself, I know I will experience it that way. I'm not suggesting it for everyone, but I'm not afraid of it. And because I trust where I'm going and I trust what I'm doing, and I'm not afraid of letting go of anything. Because I know
that's the best way to possibly look. That's the best way to possibly look at it. And
absolutely.
when Bob talked about the dream state, I recalled that article that I put out recently on my blog, the Russian research that just came out in regards to the junk. It's called Russian Researchers and the Human Junk DNA as a Biological Internet. And one of the quotes that I pulled from it when I put up the blog is it says, researchers think that if humans with full individuality would regain group consciousness, they would have a godlike power to create, alter, and shape things on Earth.
Yes.
Sound like a dream much?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, that's the 5D Earth.
Exactly
That's the 5D Earth. Otherwise, we'd be doing it now already. If she had already shifted into the fifth dimension, we would be doing that naturally.
Yeah. So I think that the cool part about that is that now science is now saying this is what it's going to look like when humans with full individuality regain group consciousness, and they're putting this to experiments and publishing research papers, and this is the kind of stuff that I love. For me personally, I love when science and spirituality blend, because science is just another part of spirituality, like everything else in all of creation's universe. And to see this backed by scientific research is always just so incredibly fascinating, for sure. But
you mentioned earlier that you do see that we're going to need an event type scenario, a moment, to allow everybody to basically get on the same page. What do you think or feel or know needs to happen, also in terms of events or that precede that?
That's really not part of our concern. Really, what our job is to fully experience ourselves here to its fullest degree, with joy and appreciation of our existence, and trust the fabric of the shift. Trust the fractals. Trust Source, that it knows, in the earth and the sun, to develop a deep relationship with Source, the sun, and the earth. And they can carry us through everything. And that's the only thing we have to do. And we don't have to worry about how it looks or what happens before, or to store food. We don't have to worry about any of that. We have to remember that there's a loving connection with each other, and Source especially, that can carry us through everything, and is personally paying close attention in terms of when and how and why and what it looks like. And when we can trust that and not be afraid of it, that is really our service here.
Thank you. That was perfect.
Yeah, and that's what I got out of your article, Kelly. It was absolutely clear that everything we've been told is not everything. Most things we've been told are just to confuse us and make it look like it's something difficult, when it's actually probably the simplest thing we'll ever do. And we just have to let go of attachment to all that stuff that we've been fed. Let it happen.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that part too. Like, I meditated. I try to meditate every morning and every night. And when I first originally got into it, it was trained to me as being the key to spiritual evolution, basically fast track to spiritual evolution. And I look at meditation now more as a tool, as a tool to quiet my mind. But it's not necessarily, for all those people out there that don't meditate, they don't have to worry about not ascending as fast. So because there's a lot of amazing tools. Some people, what I got out of your article is that you're not saying don't meditate or don't pray, but what you're saying is don't look at it as the only tool that's ultimately going to get you to where you want to go or get you to ascension any faster. Did I read that right?
Well, in terms of meditation, I was in the article I was referring to systems of meditation where you have to train for 10 to 15 to 20 years to earn the right to learn higher techniques. But then also meditation in and of itself is bleak. It's focusing on stilling the mind. And how are you going to connect emotionally with with who you are and with Source, and have a loving personal emotional experience with that which loves you, including yourself, including your oversoul, including Source. And so meditation is just stilling the mind, which keeps us from God. Stilling the mind is only just being quiet and not thinking. But when to take this practice in motion, and this is what we all long for, is for all souls long for a deep emotional, personal experience of Source purely loving it just as we are. And so meditation keeps us from that, because all we're focusing on is stilling the mind. And then the mind wanders, and then we think about these things or focus on chakras or whatever. And that's not going to get us. There's a shortcut. There's a shortcut to an emotional, personal, loving relationship with that which created us. And that, to me, is what has been kept from us for a very specific reason.
You know that story about the guy that's drowning, the fisherman that's drowning, and he prays to God to save him, and a fishing boat comes past, and he says, "No, I'm good. God's going to save me." And then, a ship comes past and tries to save him, and he says, "No, it's good. God's going to come and save me." And then he eventually drowns, and he gets to heaven and says to God, "Why didn't you save me?" He said, "I sent you two boats. What are you doing?" I've had that experience with meditation, in the sense of, I have the intent, I ask a question, and then thoughts come in or memories pop up or whatever, and I try to push them aside, because I'm supposed to be blank, When later, because these thoughts and these memories become persistent, and I look at them and I go, that was actually the answer to my question, and it was trying to come to me in the moment. But because I was trained to sort of, this is what you do when you meditate, I was turning them away and not seeing those for what they were in that moment.
Yeah,
that's not how you do it.
Right. Yeah, it's more about emotion to me, and the way I do it is to sit down, and if I need a candle, I'll light a candle, and then I will reach out. And I feel, I experience it as a hand within me reaching out, Source hand reaching in me, inside of me, and wanting me to grab its hand and connect with it emotionally. And the way I do that is this: thank you, my life for you, my love for you, thank you for my existence, thank you for the breath that I breathe, thank you for this experience to serve you, to serve the purpose of love. Thank you for my existence. And then I experience the same thing back. It says, no, thank you. No, my love for you, my life for you. Please do what you do, and may I support you in what you do. It's a deeply emotional experience. And it's real. I'm not the only one that's experienced it.
People tend to be afraid of their emotions. This is, I think, one of the things that really keeps people from connecting. We've become so left-brained, that expressing emotion even sometimes is frowned upon. People get locked in these little boxes of what's allowed, socially acceptable in expressing their emotion. You're not allowed to do things. There's certain expectations that people have, and that's just not the way. And I've always kind of felt that there's no systematic way of doing it. It's just, as long as it makes sense to you, any method that allows you to love yourself as you are. And I don't care how you get there. There's no formula. But any method that works, that allows you to do that for yourself, is the right one for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, self-love is the foundation of this path. And what I've been doing with people is to make that the first priority is self-love. And before self-love, we have to heal what has, like fear of emotion, like you said. We've been taught as children to stop crying. You're weak if you cry. And then all of the other self-doubt beliefs and lack of self-trust and unworthiness. And those are just basic imprints that just need to be healed. And what the Inca do is they, like I described before with the soul retrieval, is all we have to do is go back and feel where the wound comes from. So when we have a trigger in life, when we experience relationship and we have conflict, that is the mirror of your soul. Human relationship is the mirror of your soul. So if you have conflict in your life or disagreement with your boss or your coworkers or your family or your children, then that is the red flag that's to say this is a spot that needs to be healed. And then when we can go in and all we have to do is feel where it came from and go back to our childhood and remember where it came from, emotionally feel that repressed fear, and then let it go through being willing to feel it, then it frees up the energy channels of the soul so that this life force energy can flow through the center of our core, from our heart, out through our energy channels. And then life as the mirror of us will reflect your healing through harmonious relationships and passion and abundance. And this is the core practice here of self-love. But we have to do the foundational work to get the lies of the matrix disengaged and disintegrated out of our system.
And is that just happening anyway, regardless of what we may be conscious of? It's just happening?
No, not very much. It really has to be a conscious, what I call it, a proactive self-healing path. It really has to be up to us. It's an inside job, and there is a lot of awakening, but that's the thing. The ascension is actually making it easier for us to do. When I was doing this work 15 years ago, it was harder to work with people. And nowadays, people are just popping out, like amazing. Everybody's ready and ripe and primed for it, and it's easier to do this. It's easier to feel and just let it go because you can let it go in an instant. It's just the flow is just taking it out as you're just willing to feel it. It just takes a little bit of courage to feel the source and the core of where the pain comes from. And I'm talking about people that have been abused sexually or just had hard parenting and all kinds of, high school experiences even can create wound imprints on our beliefs about ourselves that we're not worthy or appreciated by anybody.
I've had that experience twice in the last couple of months, and you're absolutely right, Kelly. You have to be absolutely bluntly honest with yourself and point back to that spot in your life where that wound occurred, and just understand the event and what it did to you and for you, and essentially say, thank you very much. I don't need you anymore, or whatever words, whatever it is that allows you to get past the resultant impact down the timeline of your life that's still with you, to let it go, to process it. And it makes a huge difference, but it isn't necessarily instantaneous. You have to return to it, possibly a number of times. Can be, I'm sure it could. Sometimes I think it could just instantly resolve itself when you recognize where that wound comes from. But I absolutely recommend that everybody do that. And one of the things I'm trying to do is kind of look back down my life and identify the points where I had something traumatic happen, and just process that and know what it for is and let it go.
That's a long, really slow, hard journey for some of us.
Yeah, well, look, it just depends on how many of those big pings you've got back down your life, and some of us have a few, and some of us have a whole lot.
Yeah, and I created a shortcut. In Liquid Mirror, I created a shortcut, a very simple tool to use, because without tools, how are we to do it? And so I created tools to make it a simple process for people to use to do it in a simple way. And when it's too difficult to do it as a self-healing journey, then I'm there to support people's own process through sessions. And I'm not going to be doing sessions much anymore. I'm starting to pull back because I have a lot of responsibilities with my family. But I'm saying that there are shortcut tools, and and liquid mirror, I have a very simple way for people to do it on their own, to know how to create sacred space for themselves and have a safe space to drop in and allow themselves to feel through a breathing process and a directive way to go in and figure out where the wound comes from, release it, let it go, and then create a new imprint that builds the life that you want. And it's beyond the law of attraction. It's deeper.
Mm.
Yeah, I do recommend the book if you're really feeling Kelly's energy and liking it today. Please go and have a look at her website and check out her book. There's lots of amazing information in there and lots of good tools. And we do have a couple more callers, so let's try our luck this time with area code 707.
Oh, that's Sonoma County.
Amazing information in there and lots of good tools.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
And she's got a radio on in the background.
She does. Hello, 707. Area code 707.
Oh, that's Sonoma County.
Amazing information in there.
Oh, my God.
Uh-oh.
Oh, my God, she said. Yeah.
Hello.
Mute her. Yeah. Stop your radio in the background?
Yes, I have to go out to my porch and ask Nikki to do that. Could you do that? Thank you. Yeah, turn it off or down or mute. I feel like I'm in such a meeting of like souls when I hang out with you guys. I'm just I'm touched.
What's your name?
Elise.
What's your name and what part of Sonoma
I'm
County
EMC 444 in the chat room, and I'm Elise Carey. I live in Sonoma County. I think I've sent a couple of messages to you there, Brian.
Uh-oh. Did I respond?
No, yeah, you did. No, you did. You're awesome.
Okay.
Everybody's so great. I love it. You guys are just so fun to hang out with. This is such a good community, and there's so much going on. And I'm getting some blessings today because I've been having. I got to take a breath. I've been having a really hard time with kind of processing how to work into this new energy and yet be with what's happening in my 3D reality. Anybody have any thoughts on that? And I was writing in the chat room about chemtrails, and I've had 7 friends this week get sick from the spraying they've been doing this week. And it makes me really sad that this is happening. It's really chemtrails. Yes, they are inundating us from the sky.
Sorry, sweetheart. Before we move on, can you please get that radio muted in the background?
Yes, I'm sorry. I didn't realize it wasn't. Yes, they are inundating us from the sky. Nick, can you make that up for us?
Lisa, I have to.
I'm sorry about that.
I'll be
sorry.
back in a second.
Is that better?
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Bob,
time.
did you want to tackle that one?
Yeah, I want to talk to Bob about it because Bob's really been hitting my soul lately. You're really channeling some wonderful information. And I think you should I would love for you to speak on that.
Yeah, well, all of us, I think, are having, when I came back from Morocco, it was really hard, not like I left planet Earth or anything, but coming back home, it was like, coming back to the real world, the other world. I found that once I stopped looking at my outside world as being separate from me, once I stopped looking at, and honestly, everything that's going on around you is just a reflection of what's going on inside you. I'm not saying that, you're because you're seeing chemtrails that
I'm toxic. I have toxic vibrations falling from the sky.
Is
yes.
That you're focusing on what's wrong.
I know.
And all of those things, it's just like creating your dreams. If you can imagine, as you start to awaken, All right? A lot of things are going to change. But
well, I've been doing this process for a long time, by the way. I'm like 47, and I mean, this isn't a new thing for me. I've been really on a hardcore path, actually, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but I do, just to give you a little background. I mean, I've really been in process for many, many, many years. I've really been on a path, and but I'm being overwhelmed right now, and I'm really confused why. I'm extremely spiritual. I'm working stuff constantly, and I'm being taken down with this. I mean, I wish I could take a picture. This isn't just me imagining my reality. I wish I could take a picture of the sky. Brian, do you know what it looks like up here right now? Have you spoken to your family?
I was just up there for my grandmother's passing. So yeah, I did look up into the sky a couple times and see some chemtrails. I think what Bob is saying. I made the quote. I talked about the quote of how to go. There's no problem that exists outside of your mind, and how much that's resonated for me over the course of the last, since we got back from Morocco, especially, but even before then. We don't give us enough credit sometimes in our ability to not allow ourselves to go in that mode of mental anguish and struggle. Believe it or not, on a higher level, that is a choice that you're making to allow those things that you perceive outside of yourselves to affect your natural state of inner peace. So
yes, I get that. I'm shaking my head. I'm getting that. Yes.
Eckhart Tolle
I
says,
do totally get that, and I open my heart to that, and my heart is open. But right now, I'm just I've been sick this weekend and from this, and I don't run outside anymore. I used to be an athlete, and I've really shifted a lot in the last few years because of what the environment has shown me, and I think I'm choosing that. I guess I can go out there and just be myself in it, even though it's hazy every day, and I feel sad. I don't know how to deal with this. I'm struggling as a spirit right now.
I mean, at least
if you walk outside, you can. Sorry, yeah, Brian, go
ahead. I was going to say, we all understand where you're coming from. I mean, there's a lot going on in this world that when you look at it at first glance, you see corruption and fraud and poverty and hate and war and anger and aggression, all of these things, and you could say, you know what? I don't want to face that. I'm going to stay inside. And if everybody if everybody were to collectively decide that they were all going to stay inside, the world is not going to evolve with a bunch of hermits staying inside. And I don't mean to. I'm kind of
that don't want to get nanoparticles in their lungs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm poking like that. The situation because I feel you. We all understand where you're coming from. And I think that paying energy into it probably is the element that allows whatever it is in the sky to have a effect on your health much more so. It's like the people that worry about getting cancer their whole life, and then they end up getting cancer. If you go out running, you think, well, I'm going to get sick because of all these chemtrails. The odds are it's going to go through the roof and increase that you're actually going to get sick from those chemtrails. I just don't pay energy into those kinds of things anymore, and that's how I allow myself to get back into that kind of core essence of my being, which is not worried about anything ever. And is that the easiest thing to do? Absolutely not. But you do have the ability to sense worry energy when it starts to creep up in your mind, because it always comes in the form of thought, to stop it in its tracks before it has the chance to control you.
And you know what? I always ask myself, if you were God, would you fix this? Right?
That's a good one.
And I'm going to give you the answer. Yep. You are.
Mm-hmm.
And I started. I when I was in Germany, they used to have chemtrails all over the place. And after a while, I would just stop and think. I was like, you know what? What if I imagine those chemtrails as actually doing something good? This idea that you're powerless to change, because what Brian said before, that the awakened mind and the activated DNA has the ability to literally transmute matter.
Yeah.
And you yourself, because maybe they're appearing to you so that you can do something about it. because you're aware enough to do it. I sense within you.
Please finish.
I sense within you, you have the ability and the power to change it. And that's why you're seeing it, because you can do something about it. Stop looking at it as though it is something that you're powerless against you and something that is being subjected to you. It is something that is there presented for you that you, obviously, it's become into your consciousness, okay? So it's relevant to you.
Yeah.
You have the ability to change it because you're the awakened soul in that area, or one of the awakened souls in that area that can recognize it and see it for what it is and change it.
Judy said transmute in the chat room. There's a lot. If you look up, you can Google law of transmutation of energy, and there's a lot of great dialogue there.
Yes, and I do know about that work, and thank you, Judy. You're awesome. And yes, I do know about this. I just needed to sit with some family for a minute and just because I was overwhelmed. You know, I'm a feeler, and I'm an air sign. I'm a Libra. I overthink everything, and I need to sit on the ground and just understand a little bit more, because I do know these teachings. I do know this truth. And I just really wanted to get online with you guys today and talk about it. I needed some coaching and some love, so thank you a lot.
We love you.
Appreciate it.
Can I add something to that?
Is that Kelly back?
Yeah. Dolores Cannon, who I trust tremendously, when someone asked her about the chemtrails, she said, well, they don't exist in my universe. I'm immune to that. It doesn't poison my system because I don't allow it to. And when we stay connected with the earth, and you can still be emotional and feel the love of the earth and just not see it as part of your universe, it's not allowed to contaminate you because you're pure already.
And
that's really where I know we're going, and I believe, and I know I'm there now, really, if I can tune into that and believe that. I do believe that. So thank you,
It's the same with
Kelly.
food, too. It's the same with food. And there are guys who actually say, I can eat anything I like. In my world, it doesn't affect me.
Wow. Yeah, I've heard that too, Chris. Yeah. I know, and I'm very, anally organic, but, if I could really get to that place, it'd be like, well, whatever shows up, we'll be blessed, and it'll be good for me, and yes.
You just
beautiful.
said the magic
Thank
word.
You
just said the magic word. Yep.
Blessed.
When it stops mattering to you, it will stop mattering. Okay?
Nice
materializing.
Oh,
nice.
That's awesome.
Stop
I like that.
mattering.
Oh my God, that's perfect, Bob. And I did want to address the thing you said. You're like, it's showing up for you for a reason, and there are many things turbulently showing up for me right now for a reason. And it's like this stuff is happening for a reason, and I believe it's a purification, and I know it's happening for a reason. It feels hard. It feels really hard, but it's happening for a reason. So thank you, all of you. I love all of you so much, and your shows are on fire. I mean, this is such an awesome community. Everybody, wow, yay.
Love you too, Lisa.
Thank you for calling in, darling, because I am very proud of all the responses that you got. I'm so proud of the guys.
Oh, I'm sending you all hugs. I can't wait to read the chat room. Yay, love you, love you, love you.
You too.
Hugs, okay. And I've called you before, and I just couldn't even make words happen. I mean, so I'm so happy I finally got to do it well.
You did good.
Okay, thanks, bye.
Right.
See you guys later, love you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for calling.
Bye-bye.
Oh, well said, guys. Everyone. Kelly as well. That was lovely. And you all touched on points that I was going to mention, so it's like, I don't have to say anything. I could just sit back and shut up. That's great.
For a change.
Yeah. Well, we've got 7 more minutes left, and we'll try 336 again. Hello, 336? Area code 336? It is,
hello.
Randy. How you doing, darling?
I'm doing wonderful. I hope you guys are.
Excuse me. Yes, we are. We're all very wonderful.
I feel like a poster child for tonight's show.
You are our poster child. You're
always
the
a poster
mascot
child for every show, Randy. What are you talking about?
I tell you what. I was talking to my brother before the show tonight, and it's so amazing how things just manifest. That really, I mean, it's something as simple as a stove. I mean, I needed a stove. I went on the Craigslist. The first thing I clicked on was the one I needed. It was the price below what I needed, and I mean, it's just amazing how things fall into place.
You are certainly on a ride at the moment, aren't you?
Absolutely.
I can't explain how I feel like every day is just, I wake up, just what's going to happen today? It's just, I'm so excited.
It's a great way to be.
What kind of way is that to live your life, Randy?
You're too happy, Randy. That you must be doing something wrong.
Exactly, Bob. You're right. I must be doing something wrong, but everything is going right.
Well, that's Bob right.
I sent Lisa a couple emails. There was a website that I came across a few months back called divineprovidence.org, and it
Bob and I
answers
are very familiar.
Go ahead.
I said, Bob, Chris, and I are very familiar with it.
Yeah, there's some answers to the questions that were going on the show last night that have been answered through a webinar on this website that I listened to last Thursday, and it was freaking awesome. I don't know if you guys had a chance to hear it or not, but I sent you the link to it, Lisa.
Yeah, I haven't listened to it.
If you get a chance to listen, I think you'll understand a lot more about the dates of June the 30th was the last date of. There's a window of 3 years from June 30th, starting July 1st, of when all this stuff is supposed to transpire. And September 1st is, like you discussed last night, is a very transitional date as far as immunity for all these dark people who have been holding things against us. I think we're going to see some great changes come, I think within the next 30 days. I think we're going to see a lot of things happening.
How about tomorrow, Randy?
Yeah, tomorrow's good.
Yeah. Oh, today is awesome.
Every day.
Something I can tell you about today is just freaking awesome. How about, let me tell you something to share. I know time's coming to an end, but I've been wrestling with getting my driver's license back. I got a phone call this afternoon from an unexpected source who said, "You're free and clear, nothing is wrong, you can get your driver's license tomorrow." And it was just out of the blue. And
why am I not surprised?
What's that?
So why am I not surprised?
Exactly. Why am I not surprised? It has something to do with its alignment, I feel like, because of the energies. It's really, I mean, people are just really. And one thing I wanted to say, I wanted to add to what you guys are saying. One thing that the Ascension has done for us, I think it has made the boundaries disappear. There's no more boundaries between rich and poor, ugly or beautiful. There's no more boundaries there. Everybody's becoming one. And I think that's what Ascension is about.
Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Randy, for calling in. We are down to just 90 seconds. So we're going to quickly say our goodbyes. Lovely to hear from you again. Thank you for the information you sent through to me yesterday via email. And I'm sure we'll hear from you tomorrow on the Enjoy Show.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
See you, Randy.
See you, Randy.
Hey, bye.
Bye-bye.
I love you guys.
Love
you too. Kelly, I just want to say thank you for joining us. It's always a real pleasure to talk with you. I love hearing your perspective and your insight. Thank you.
No, thank you, Lisa. I enjoyed being with family.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
and
thanks.
again, to everybody, it's liquidmirror.org if you want to go and have a look at Kelly's work. I highly recommend it. And thanks, regulars, of course. Chris?
It's a pleasure. And Kelly, your article is one that I know I can. If someone asks me a question about what is ascension, I can just send that to them. So thank you very much for that. It's a great and simple explanation.
And Bobby?
Yes. Thank you, everyone who called, Kelly, all the people in the chat room. These guys are awesome.
And last but definitely not least, Brian. Oh yes, I'm so glad to
Yes,
have
you
shared
got like
this
8
time with
seconds.
you
Quick,
guys.
quick.
Bob, Chris, Lisa, Kelly, chat room, everyone listening live. God, we freaking love you guys, and we'll see you next week. Actually, tomorrow on the Enjoy Show.
Thank you. Love sharing in the love.
Bye-bye.